evening, everyone. Mayor, my Vice Mayor's not here, but Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Cassandra Harvey, Assistant City Attorney, and I will be presenting today's 2025 ethics training.
We have to start the meeting first.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Cassie.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. It's good. Good evening. I'd like to call this workshop to order. Calling meeting 2025-1119-WS.
As we begin, we kindly ask that all mobile devices be silenced to ensure the best possible sound quality. Please speak clearly and directly into the microphone, and remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Should anyone experience difficulty hearing at any time, please raise your hand and a hearing device will be provided to you. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you. Mr. Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
So Commissioner Rydell is not in attendance this evening. So Commissioner Welch.
Here.
Commissioner Brody.
Here.
Vice Mayor Wasserman is not in attendance this evening. Mayor Raley.
Here.
City Manager Rose.
Here.
City Attorney Piper.
Here.
Thank you. Can we all rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted live with a physical quorum present. The material for today's meeting is available online at www.coconutcreek.gov, and the meeting is being broadcast live. We will now begin the training session by our City Attorney's Office regarding state and county ethics laws, public records law, sunshine law, and social media. Thank you. Our City Attorney, Terrell Pyburn.
Thank you, Mayor Raley. This evening, we have a wonderful presentation by Cassie Harvey, who may be assisted by Laura Vargas Gallardo. They've spent a lot of time putting this together for you, so we hope that you like it and that you learn a lot. And we're also available for questions. With that, if I may, Mayor, turn it over to Ms. Harvey.
Good evening again, Mayor, Commissioners. I will be presenting this evening's 2025 training. You mentioned that we'll be talking about several different topics this evening, including the role of the commissioners, public ethics, and the Office of the Broward County the OIG, the Office of Inspector General, public records, sunshine law, social media, and other hot topics. This will run about 2 hours. Does anybody have a preference if we stop halfway for a break, or do you want to just plow through it? You got it. With that, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So your role as a commission member includes working for the benefit of the city residents. You shall not have any personal, economic, or financial benefit from your position except for your salary. You must always act in a manner that promotes public trust, builds confidence in the government, is transparent and honest, and avoids the appearance of impropriety. So training. The Code of Ethics mandates the following regarding training for elected officials. You must complete 4 hours of ethics training, 2 of which must be done in an interactive setting, which we're doing here tonight. But it could also be done either individually or like we're doing it in a group setting. Once you've completed your training, you must post your certification online in a searchable database on the city's website. And you must do that by January 30th of the following year. So for this training, it must be posted by January 30th of 2026. And that's for your county ethics. And you must also check the box off of the Form 1 for your annual state ethics form. Included in that certification, you must also attest to how how you attended the training, so whether it was group, whether it was live, online, or individual. So as recently as September 10th of 2025, the Broward Office of the Inspector General issued a memorandum. It's OIG 25010M. This memo highlighted problems with the way that elected officials were reporting and completing their training and turning in their certifications. So in order to improve compliance and make reporting process smoother for our elected officials, that's okay. The clerk's office will now be taking an active role in supporting you in this process by sending out friendly reminders for deadlines and also offering hands-on assistance to ensure that all of your required training documentation is completed fully, accurately, and is also timely submitted.
And Cassie, if I could just add really quickly, just to be absolutely clear, so there are two requirements under the law. One is 4 hours of required state ethics training that is required by the state that you all report on your Form 1 annually in July. And the other one is 4 hours of training through Broward County, of which 2 hours have to be interactive. And that's because Broward County has its own set of ethics rules, which is somewhat different than just the regular state ethics rules. You can attend those trainings concurrently. For example, this training covers both state and Broward County ethics rules. Or you could do it separately, in which case it may take longer and you may end up having to do 8 hours. But I just want to make sure that you understand what the requirements are, because I do think there has been some confusion. Again, Broward County is kind of an anomaly in that it is one of the few counties in the state that does have its own set of ethics rules, and it is a little bit nuanced in that they don't exactly track the state ethics rules. I don't know if you have any questions, but just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. So we'll move on to public ethics and the Office of the Inspector General. So the Code of Ethics regarding misuse of position, as an elected official, you are not to use your official position to secure a special privilege for yourself or anybody else. And that's defined in state statute, specifically section 112.3136. Subsection 6 says that a public official or their spouse or minor child may not corruptly use or attempt to use their official position or any property or resource in their trust or perform their official duties to secure a special privilege, benefit, or exemption for themselves or others. And the statute further goes on to define corruptly to mean done with wrongful intent or resulting from some act or omission of a public servant which is inconsistent with their public duties. Also, you are not to use any information gained from your official position that is not already generally known by the public for you or for anyone else's personal gain. And that is found in section 112.313, subsection 8 of Florida statutes. So let's go over just a few examples. Let's say, for instance, you all are going to World of Beer and you spend the evening eating and drinking amongst friends or family, and it comes time to go home and you decide you probably shouldn't drive, so you call the chief of police to give you a ride home. Does anybody see any, or what implications, ethical implications, could be found in this scenario? Anybody? Right. So if anybody else, if any resident or anyone else cannot call the chief for a ride home, you probably shouldn't be doing it either. And how would that look? How would the public perceive that? Probably not so good. Right.
That said, you shouldn't drive. Maybe call an Uber.
An Uber's probably best. Lyft, Uber, anything like that. Yeah, you may, but probably phone a friend would be better. So a little different, but this time, and we hope it doesn't happen, but there's a hurricane tracking directly for the city of Coconut Creek. And city staff is here at City Hall distributing sandbags to residents. You can't make it, and so you call and you ask to have a few extra sandbags delivered to your house. Does anybody see an issue with this scenario?
We don't do it for all of the other residents.
Exactly. Right. So we're seeing a trend. If everybody or anybody can't make the request, you as a public official certainly shouldn't be making it either. And the last one, while attending a Florida Panthers hockey game, you use your City of Coconut Creek Commissioner title to request better seats. You know, you're sitting way up there in the nosebleeds, and you're like, nah, this Coconut Creek Commissioner status has to get me somewhere, right? You probably shouldn't do that, but so you use that title to ask the general manager for better seats, and what does he do? He takes you up on that, and he escorts you to the owner's suite. And you and your family get these new seats based on your title. Again, if we, and I'm going to go on to the next slide because we've talked about some of it, but essentially if anybody else cannot make that request, if you're getting that result or that benefit based on your commissioner title, you shouldn't be asking for it. If that request wouldn't be honored the same for everybody, if I can't make that request, or Laura or Kathy, nobody should be doing it. And lastly,
excuse me, Cassie, but
Yes,
if that person pays for that box, then
if the commissioner pays for the box,
yes,
out of your personal funds,
yes,
I don't see an issue with that because you're using your personal funds
Right.
and you are receiving what you paid for.
right. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, let's say you as a commissioner want to give somebody a special benefit or something. Well, if you couldn't give that gift or that benefit but for your position as a commissioner, then you shouldn't be giving it. So it's all pretty much the same. If everybody can't do it, you probably shouldn't do it. Any questions? Nope. Uh-oh. What happened here? Okay, so I have a couple of little videos just to show you what you probably shouldn't be doing if you get pulled over by police. The first one is a short clip out of, I believe it's Escambia County, up north, Florida, and the second one is in the city of Sarasota. And again, it's a good example of what you shouldn't do.
Well, Fox 35 is waiting for a response from Flathead County Commission Chairman Joe Mullins. This morning, a trooper stopped him on I-95 for speeding at a red Ferrari. Take a look at what happened next.
So 90 miles an hour, 22 of speed was okay. Normally I get warning, I get brakes, but it looks like it's been in for warning already. So I usually do citation. But what I did say is it's going to be there for 30 days.
Well, this happened back in June. As the trooper explains the citation, Mullins cuts him off to say he knows how the process works.
Okay, you run the county.
Well, the trooper continued to explain the citation, saying he didn't want any miscommunication. Mullins then takes off, and as you see, he kind of sped off there when he left, right? So we asked the commissioner for an explanation of what he meant by his statement. We have not yet received our final stay on top.
Implicates the trying to get a special privilege or benefit based on his status as a commissioner. He runs the county, right? So how dare you write me a ticket or stop me? No, we shouldn't do that. Take the ticket and move on. Uh-oh, let's see. All right, let me see if I can get over to the next one. No? I think I got it. Okay. So this one, again, is out of the city of Sarasota. And he, again, is just not using his position wisely. And I'm only going to play a few seconds of it. So I don't know if you heard him, but he says, I'm just going to call the chief. You know who I am, right? She says, yes, sir, I do, but I have a job to do. And it goes on for another 15 minutes where he's just is like this, right? He gets 2 tickets. Yes, one for not giving his registration, which ultimately was expired, and the other one for speeding, yes. It gets worse for him. And then he ultimately gave a public apology for his poor behavior. Let's see. All right, so I want us to think about what are some of the ethical implications of this next scenario. So not all misuse of position is done intentionally. It can be done accidentally or unintentionally. So for instance, let's say you stop by the city's Public Works Department, and while you're in there, you notice that there were some new power tools that were delivered. And you just happen, you're talking to one of the staff members, you're like, oh man, this weekend I'm going to be working on my new deck. It would be so much easier for me to build this deck if I had some new tools, maybe a new drill, things like that. What ethical implications do we see with a statement or a request like this? I'm sorry?
Out of the box,
What do you mean?
out of the box of normal behavior for an elected official.
Okay, probably shouldn't be stating it, right? If it's a statement, because it could be a statement and it could be a request. It's hard to know the intention, maybe. So we could also see interference, right? A public official should not be interfering with the day-to-day workings of the employees and the staff. They should you don't want to have any, or you want to prevent any political interference with the day-to-day operations of the city. So a statement like that is likely inappropriate. We could also see misuse of resources. The city's equipment and tools aren't your personal equipment or tools. So here are some of the issues. The speaker and the listener may have a different understanding of the statement. Again, the commissioner, she may have just said, oh man, that would be really helpful for me, and not meant anything by it. But the employee could interpret it as like, oh, are they asking me to borrow the tools? I'm not sure. And that could put a little bit of strain on the individual. Specifically, it could put the commissioner at risk again for interference or misuse of their position, and it could put the employee at double risk, meaning, well, if they do comply with this request, they could be seen as giving a special favor to the public official, and if they don't, maybe they may fear loss of job because of the political power or clout of the public official. So it's best to just watch what you say and to whom you say it. Oh, here's another short clip. This one, while it may seem silly, it is a good example of how a silly request can get you into some serious trouble. And ultimately, not to jump ahead, but the city manager did not get fired based on this, but he is in the news, and it, for me, is very embarrassing to be seen like this. So it's something you may not want to do. Oh, there's a quick, sorry. It's not. Fairy dust. Oop.
accepting. At the time that we left the meeting and came outside here, we found out that there will not be a firing here because of this incident. The one city commissioner who had demanded Salom's resignation withdrew that demand, but they are still talking about potential, some kind of disciplinary action being taken here. We're not sure what that's going to be. For his part, Salomon gave an apology, an impassioned apology to the city, to the owners of the store, to the clerk who was there that day. So you might say that he had a home run with his bundt cake apology. We'll see what happens next.
Again, a lot of public embarrassment, a lot of ethical violations over something so trivial. So again, the overarching theme, be careful what you say and to whom you say it to, because you do not want to be perceived as looking for something special for you or a privilege because of your position.
And just to clarify, in this particular instance, what was alleged was that he went into the bundt cake shop and said, when they wouldn't honor the coupon, well, you know who I am, don't you? So again, it's kind of that implication of that misuse of position, whether he did or he didn't. Ultimately, his own commission determined he didn't. It wasn't worth firing him over. But nobody wants that appearance of a misuse of position or the allegations to play out in the public over something silly like a bundt cake coupon.
Okay, so we're going to transition into one of our cases. While this case ties into misuse of position, it's more on illegal exactions. This is Kuntz versus the St. Johns River Water Management District. In that case, Kuntz was a Florida property owner. He wanted to develop part of his land. He applied for permits to develop part of it. He even offered to fill in a portion of the wetlands while preserving the rest as a conservation area. But the Water Management District gave him conditions on his approval. They said, we will only approve your permit if you do one of the following. You must either reduce the size of your development and further conserve more land, or pay off site mitigation, such as funding for improvements to government-owned wetlands, which were several miles away. So you may have guessed, Kuntz said, no, I'm not doing that. He rejected the conditions. He says that, that these conditions are unrelated to his project, the development impacts of his project, and they were asking for too much. So what did the district do? They denied his permit. Well, in that case, the court held that the government could not condition land use permits on requirements that lack a nexus to the proposed development impact. This is what's known as an illegal exaction. In other words, an illegal exaction occurs when the government uses its power to force or require a property owner to give up something or do something above and beyond what the code requires. It often looks like the government saying, you can build or develop that property if you do this for us. Or it could look like a property owner or developer offering to give the government something extra, say, hey, if you approve our permits, we will go ahead and pay $50,000 for a playground that's across town. There's no reasonable nexus to that, either the request that the government's giving or the offer that the developer property owner is giving to try to persuade the government to approve their permits. Anybody have any questions?
So again, this is not saying that you can't have conditions of approval for a site plan or for some kind of a project, a development project that comes before you, but there has to be a nexus between the condition and the proposed project. Otherwise, it could come across as looking like a bribe, like, okay, or a quid pro quo. We will give you this. For example, at one point in time, there were allegations that there was a particular entity that was offering to install stadium lights for Monarch High School in exchange for the city approving something. Ultimately, that didn't go forward. But that's where these kinds of situations, you have to be very careful that, and I know none of you would ever request something like that, but also be careful that what they're offering, if in doubt, ask us. If you don't know if that's legal, what they're offering, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yes, thank you. So just a few helpful tips to avoid ethical complaints. Keep your business endeavors separate from your personal responsibilities. Business is business, personal is personal. Never assert a public position for a special benefit or privilege. And when in doubt, as Ms. Pyburn said, always seek guidance from the City Attorney's Office if you have questions, or the Florida Commission on Ethics. So this is charitable solicitations. We can have a charitable solicitation either in your private capacity or in your official capacity. The law says that elected officials may, in their private capacity, solicit on behalf of any charitable organization, nonprofit entity, or individual, but must comply with all state or federal laws applicable to the specific situation, not represent or imply that a solicitation is on behalf of or has been approved by the city, and not use the city staff or city resources. And again, that's on your private, in your private capacity. In your official capacity, an elected official may solicit on behalf of an organization meeting the IRS criteria for charitable organizations, so long as there is no quid pro quo or other special consideration, including any direct or indirect exchange of benefits between the parties to the charitable solicitation. If you work for a nonprofit charity, your salary earned for that position is not considered a quid pro quo or other special condition.
Cassie, is there a special form you need to fill out if you do solicit charitable donations?
So there is a form. I don't remember the one off the top of my head. I'm trying to.
Maybe we're getting to it.
I have the Form 9, which is the quarterly gift disclosure. No, I don't think I have.
I don't think that you have that necessarily with you, but there is a form required by Broward County. And I think that that's covered a little bit in a later slide.
Okay.
No, that's okay. So yes, good question. There is a form, but there are some exceptions, and that's where she'll explain that now.
So not everything, not everything is a charitable solicitation, and the following official or private charitable solicitations, they are not considered a solicitation. So one is a post on a social media page where the main purpose is not to promote charities. That is allowed, so long as you don't tag anybody specifically or tag any specific organization. So if you make a post on social media on a page, again, so let's just say it's a dog rescue, and you're posting about something on that page, it might be a charity. Anyway, post on social media pages where the page's main purpose is not promoting the charity, that's allowed.
Is that on your page or their page?
On social media pages, so I believe it could be either or.
That's correct. So basically, if you're just saying, hey, there's dogs available at the Humane Society, just throwing random examples out there, you're not necessarily soliciting for that charity. You're just, it's kind of a public service announcement. You're just sort of sharing that, or maybe you say, you like it or something. That's not necessarily going to trigger the requirement to file a form.
Okay.
Emails about charitable causes or events to groups of 50 or more people. So if it's a large email to a large group of people, then that's not considered a charitable solicitation. GoFundMe or other similar online fundraising campaigns, again, not considered a official or private charitable solicitation. Newsletters mentioning charitable causes or events, so long as promoting charities, again, is not the main purpose of that newsletter. And at any publicly announced commission meeting, officials may mention charitable causes or events and may encourage participation or support, so long as they do not, again, target specific identifiable individuals. Bless you. So there are several helpful reminders as it relates to charitable solicitation. And Broward County, elected officials may use governmental staff. and resources for official charitable fundraising, as long as it doesn't cost additional public money and they follow all other rules. Commission approval is required when an official solicitation uses public funds or seeks to use staff beyond the official's own assigned staff. So if you're looking to ask other staff that you don't, is not your own assigned staff, that would go beyond this. When a charitable solicitation has not been approved by commission, an elected official or their staff may not represent or imply that the solicitation has been city approved or that the city endorses that. An elected official may not use any staff or resources when soliciting from identifiable private individuals or for profit entities unless approved by the city attorney based on applicable law and a determination that the solicitation serves a public purpose. All charitable solicitations, private or official, must be disclosed within 15 days of the solicitation.
On a form provided by Broward County, but you can obtain them from Joe or myself.
Thank you. An elected official serves on a charity's board of directors or fundraising committee and who solicits regularly or periodically may file one form that is valid for a 2-year period. Any questions? I can't hear. Oh, thank you. Campaign contributions. So this is Broward County rules on campaign contributions. An elected official may engage in multiple campaign contribution fundraising efforts on behalf of the same candidates for elected public office within a single disclosure when they are listed as a member of the host committee or their name appears on a letter of support or endorsement card. But you must file a disclosure, and the disclosure must be filed within 15 days of the earliest indication of support, and it remains valid until the next general election ends or for 2 years of filing the disclosure, whichever is a shorter time period. No disclosure is required when an elected official only endorses a candidate but does not allow them to use their name in any of the fundraising efforts, and where the elected official attends or speaks at an event, including campaign fundraising events, so long as they do not ask others to make financial contributions to the candidate's campaign or collect contributions on behalf of the candidate. So I'm going to show you another short video on misuse of campaign funds. It also ties into misuse of position. This is out of the city of Pompano Beach. And let's see.
Pompano Beach City Commissioner misused leftover campaign cash from 2021. The case now being referred to the Broward State Attorney for possible criminal charges. Well, Lieutenant Glenna Milbrook is live with reaction. Glenna.
Christy, what did she do with the money? That is the question. And Broward's Inspector General finds that Beverly Perkins either misspent it or didn't report it at all, or maybe misreported it. If you don't live in Pompano Beach, the name does sound familiar. It's because Perkins has been in the news before, mostly on police body cam footage.
That was last April. The Pompano Beach Commissioner pulled over for speeding. Beverly Perkins said sorry for that to police.
I do apologize.
Though it wasn't the first time.
You went around the calls that are out there for a reason.
December 2020, stopped for skirting a roadblock.
I am too. I live here too.
Today, Perkins faces a less dramatic but possibly more criminal action. This report from the Broward's Inspector General details how she and her 2020 campaign manager misspent and or hid thousands in contributions and falsified election documents, concluding much of the conduct was criminal in nature.
I just don't believe that. Being mistaken. I believe it's mistaken. She's a wonderful person and she's great for our community.
Perkins has plenty of supporters. She herself didn't respond to us today, but told the IG she didn't know or didn't remember, though she did sign off on it all. Lists of purchases with leftover campaign money, a clear clear violation, plus receipts that didn't match, unaccountable checks written to cash, this one $6,000, more than $3,000 unaccounted for dollars to a Baptist church.
And that church wasn't even in the city of Pompano Beach. So be careful how you spend your campaign contributions.
And I just want to make clear that any of these videos that we show you, I mean, we are not commenting or opining on the veracity of the allegations or the outcome. We are simply just sharing clips that we found in the news that might be relevant to help to educate you all on ethics. Thank you.
Correct. And just to show you that it's very easy, it's simple to either say the wrong thing in the heat of the moment, or you just have to be very careful, again, with what you say and to whom you say it. So voting conflicts. Do not vote on any item that will provide you or someone who is connected to you a special gain or loss. Section 112.3143 of Florida statutes provides that you cannot vote if your vote would inure to your special private gain or loss, or it would inure to the special private gain or loss of any principal by whom you've been retained, or to the parent subsidiary organization of a corporate principal by whom you've been retained, to a relative. Relative is broadly defined to mean father, mother, son, your husband, wife, brother, sister, and it includes your in-laws, or a business associate. Whether a gain or loss is considered special or private depends on the specific facts of each situation. For example, there was a Commission on Ethics opinion back 91-18 where the city council member was found that she could vote on a road project that affected one of 385 property owners because that impact was shared broadly and was not unique to the individual council member. So if it affects a large group of people, it will likely okay, but if it's a smaller number, then you start getting into more grayer water. But again, it's all fact specific. When considering if a voting conflict exists, you should always be thinking about a few things. One would be the nature of the interest involved, how many people are affected in the question, and the degree of the benefit of harm to you compared to others. And also, if the potential gain or loss is remote, speculative, or uncertain at the time of the vote, then it is not considered a special private gain or loss, and there is no conflict at that time. And there was a case from the Commission on Ethics back in 1988, 88-31, where a council member was allowed to vote on property annexation next to land that she owned because it was unclear how the development would affect her property. So if it's unclear, unknown, or speculative, then at the time of the vote, then there's generally no conflict of interest at that time.
But if I could just say, even if there's not a voting conflict in those situations, for example, the one of 385 people for that road that was referenced earlier, it's helpful to still disclose that relationship. Just say, I live in that neighborhood, something along those lines, so that way everything is above board and there's no appearance of impropriety or any issues.
Yes, transparency is best. So if a voting conflict does exist, you must contact the city attorney's office, preferably in advance of the meeting, would be helpful. And to also determine if the conflict violates your ethical duties under the ethics code, any other ethics code. Remember that simply abstaining from a vote may not be the answer because the law requires that you vote. Again, each case is very fact-specific and is evaluated independently. So again, give us a call if you have any questions or you think there may be any issues. Pursuant to Section 112.3143, subsection 3, subsection A of Florida statutes, if a voting conflict is determined permissible under the Ethics Code, you must, prior to the vote being taken, publicly state at the meeting what the nature of your conflict is. And you should state that you will be abstaining for that vote. If possible, the best practice would be to leave the dais and exit the room until the next agenda item is called. We're trying to avoid any type of intimidation, any type of anything like that interfering with a vote that you may have a conflict in. You must file a Form 8B, which is the Memorandum of Voting Conflict, and give it to the city clerk within 15 days of the vote so that it can be added to the official city commission meeting minutes. Here's another short clip. This is one from a Gadsden County commissioner. Gadsden County is just outside of Tallahassee, where it's implicated, he's being investigated for interference with contracts or conflict of interest. He's approving contracts for his landlord, and you'll see what happens here.
Here tonight, the Florida Commission on Ethics is investigating a Gadsden County commissioner. The board met and found probable cause against Commissioner Ontaris Green that he had a conflict of interest for granting contracts for his landlord. We did reach out to Commissioner Green today, who told us the contractor in question had been used by the county for a decade before he took office, adding, quote, "These contracts are selected by the county staff. Not one commissioner has anything to do with that process," end quote. He also says that the votes on that contractor have always been unanimous. Now, according to social media, Green is the owner of the Greenery Floral and Tuxedo Place, a local florist shop in Quincy. The Ethics Commission's next meeting is in September, but it's unclear if that will include an evidentiary hearing for Commissioner Green.
This ethics case remains ongoing still. And that was from February. So it takes us a long time from start to finish for these cases to move through this system.
Cassie?
Yes.
So even though the contractor was being used prior to the individual becoming a commissioner, it's still, I mean, obviously to disclose the relationship, but would it still be deemed unethical? Or he would just have to abstain from the vote?
Right. So best I can tell from the clip is that, yes, they were using the contractor prior to him taking office, but also approving them while he was in office. So that's, I think, where the issue comes up as well.
If I may, it has to do with whether or not the process is a fair and transparent process. So, for example, if we have a situation where, maybe you have some kind of business relationship with a contractor and the contractor bids on a contract that's out to bid for the city and has the same opportunity as every other person to bid on it, and it happens to come before the commission and the commission votes on it, it still would be a conflict, and they would have to disclose it. But let's say maybe now it's a family member. So if it's a family member and you had no idea that they were voting on it, and it was open and available to everybody in the same way, and the family member happens to be a long-distance cousin that you haven't seen in 25 years at the last reunion, then you would just need to disclose the relationship. So all of these things are very fact-specific, but it really will turn on whether or not the process was fair and transparent and open and available to everybody versus whether or not it was something where maybe it's a sole source type situation, and that's the only entity that provides for those goods or services. It also is going to depend on how close the relationship is and whether or not a voting conflict is triggered. In this case, I mean, his landlord, somebody could argue that it would inure to his gain or loss. Perhaps his landlord was going to work a deal with him if it continued to be approved, that contract, by the commission, where maybe they would charge him lower rent. I mean, we don't know all of the facts of that situation. We also don't know, what his lease provided for, and we don't know the process that was used in order to select that particular vendor by the city. So it's kind of hard to say just from the news clip, but very clearly it at least caused enough of a question to where the Ethics Commission was looking into it, and the public, had some concerns where somebody turned it over to the Ethics Commission. Again, I don't know the ultimate outcome of that one. From what Ms. Harvey said, it's still being investigated. The Ethics Commission is not always fast. But anyhow, so it really is going to depend on, it's very fact specific.
So my point was, could this all have been avoided if they just disclosed the relationship and abstained from the vote?
I think, again, there are more facts that I don't have yet to make a determination.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
But it would be
just say
helpful.
Probably. Probably if they abstained from the vote, that would definitely help. Now, unless they have an ongoing conflict, which, I mean, again, it's the landlord. Maybe this person has multiple contracts with the city, in which case it might be prohibited entirely and could cause a problem with them serving on the commission. But as Ms. Harvey said, we don't know enough facts.
So with that investigation in mind, the city has a cone of silence policy in place, and the cone of silence is put in place for your protection and to keep the integrity of the competitive bidding process. And the cone of silence applies to all requests for proposals, all requests for qualifications, and invitations to bid. But what is a cone of silence? It is a prohibition on any communication between a potential offeror, bidor, lobbyist, vendor, consultant, or city commissioner and certain members of city staff regarding a particular RFP, RFQ, and IFB, or any other advertised solicitation from the time of solicitation to the time the solicitation is advertised to the contract award recommendation. Yes.
So what happens if a bid goes through and it was awarded and then they call you afterwards to communicate that what happened and all that? So is that code of silence still in play? To be honest with you, I don't know any of the bids that go out, so I'm just talking hypothetical.
So the cone of silence is in effect and from the time that a solicitation is advertised to the time that the contract award is the recommendation for award is given. So if the award is given, and then that cone of silence would no longer prevent that communication.
But if the award has not been given, maybe it's scheduled to come before you at the next commission meeting, and the vendor calls you because maybe they know you or they just want to reach out and see if you can, do something, then you should direct them to talk to the procurement manager because you can't talk to them. There's a cone of silence in effect.
So lobbying, what is lobbying? We hear the word a lot in government. Lobbying means any natural person who, for compensation, seeks or sought during the preceding 12 months to influence a governmental decision-making of a reporting individual or procurement employee or their agency, or seeks or sought during the preceding 12 months to encourage the passage, defeat, or modification of a proposal or recommendation by the reporting individual or procurement employee or their agency. A lobbyist is a person who is retained with or without compensation, or a person who is principally employed to lobby on behalf of the employer. A lobbyist is not a public official or employee communicating in their official capacity. They are not an individual communicating on their own behalf or someone communicating on behalf of their employer unless that is their main job, to communicate on behalf of their employer or be a lobbyist. It is not a homeowners association member representing the HOA, nor is it a nonprofit interest member representing that nonprofit. So the City of Coconut Creek, Section 2.1002 of the code requires that all lobbyists register with the city and must pay a $50 fee. There's a lobbyist activity log.
Yes, that is a pretty standard fee, and we adopted that some number of years ago. But yes. I don't know offhand what the exact fee is that all of the Broward County cities charge, but most of them do charge a fee. I know that we had researched that a couple of years ago when we last updated it. We're happy to look into that if you'd like more information. Will do, thank you.
So if you were going to...
Annual fee.
Sorry. If you're going to meet with a lobbyist, the lobbyist, including their principals or employees, must fill out a contact log for every meeting with an elected official or a decision-making employee they meet with or plan to meet with. So just a little question. If a lobbyist wanted to meet with myself as the assistant city attorney, would a lobbying activity log or contact need to be done? I see City Manager Rose shaking her head. That's right. Why? Because I'm not a decision maker, right? I work underneath the city attorney. I don't have decision-making power for the city. However, if the lobbyist wanted to meet with Ms. Rose, would that need to be logged? I see people shaking their head, yes. And that is because she is a decision maker for the city, right? And similarly, if they all meet, if a lobbyist meets with one of you all, that must be logged as well.
What happens if they don't?
So it is the lobbyist's responsibility to do the log and ensure that every contact is recorded and that everyone who takes part in the meeting is listed, whether the meeting takes place in person, by phone, or email. And if they don't, I will defer that question to City Attorney Pyburn.
So we first will notify them if we become aware of it, and by we, I mean really Joseph's office. We'll notify them and ask them to go ahead and log the meeting, and if they're not registered, we ask them to register. That's happened occasionally. And then if they don't comply, then there's a whole set of warnings and steps that are followed. Ultimately, they can be fined for failing to register and failing to report. And our wonderful city clerk has offered to read aloud the requirements, or rather the steps for penalties if you like, but it's covered under section 2-1005. Go ahead.
Correct. So these violations cover a wide range of any infraction that a lobbyist would have in this process: not reporting a contact log, not filing in time, incomplete information, whatever it is. So the first offense is a written warning, and that warning is signed off by the city manager. The second offense is prohibition of the violator from lobbying on behalf of any principal or any subject matter in the city for a period of 1 year. And the third, and more offenses, so it escalates from there, prohibition of the violator from lobbying on behalf of any principal or any subject matter in the city for a period of 2 years. So that's what we have currently.
And that's our
That is
policy.
accurate.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So when it comes to lobbying, a commissioner may not lobby any covered individual. That term is defined in the County Code of Ethics, except in their official capacity. So you may lobby in your official capacity, but may not in your private or personal capacity. The commissioner may have outside employment, but only if that outside employment does not conflict with the law or your public duties and responsibilities here with the city. You must disclose all outside or concurrent employment, and you must disclose any money or remuneration received from that position. So the following is prohibited under Broward County and the state ethics rules. No public officer, employee of an agency, local government attorney, or candidate for nomination or election shall solicit or accept anything of value to the recipient, including a gift, loan, reward, promise of future employment, favor, or service based upon any understanding that the vote, official action, or judgment of the public officer, employee, local government attorney, or candidate would be influenced thereby. And that's found under Florida Statute Section 112.313, subsection 2. A public officer or spouse or child of that public officer is prohibited from accepting anything of value if based on the understanding that the acceptance would be influenced. Again, that's under Florida Statute 112.313, subsection 4. and as a Form 1 filer, or your immediate family, to solicit or knowingly accept anything of value from a political committee other than legally authorized and primarily related to campaign financing. And that's under Florida statute as well. So there's a recent Commission on Ethics Opinion 25-5 discussing gifts and the acceptance of tickets. There were two issues in that opinion. One was, does a commissioner have to file a Form 9, that is the quarterly gift disclosure form, if they used city discretionary funds to buy tickets to a charity event when the purchase counts as a donation to that charity? And the commission found that yes, a commissioner must file a Form 9 if they received event tickets worth more than $100 that they did not personally pay for. However, if the gift, even if it's over $100, is mainly connected to your role on a private organization's board, then it does not have to be reported as a gift. Therefore, if the city gifts you gala tickets because you are serving as the city's representative, in this case it was on the board, the League of Cities Board of Directors, then the tickets count as a gift connected to your work on that board. And therefore, you do not have to disclose or report that you received and accepted these tickets. So in this case, you are the representative on the boards of directors. And the other situation or the other circumstances, you were not. You were just using city funds to buy tickets to a charity you were going to attend.
What about others that are not on the board that may accept a gala ticket?
They need to be, you can accept them, but you would have to file the Form 9, the gift disclosure. And if you would have to file the gift disclosure form if you didn't personally pay for them. And if it's worth more than $100. So the following are not considered gifts and therefore do not have to, do not follow that reporting or the disclosure. Compensation for service as an officer, director, or employee of a private company or organization. For example, your salary for your private employment outside of the city. That does not need to be, that does not equal a gift. Campaign contributions, any awards, plaques, or honorary memberships. Use of public facilities for public purposes. Transportation for officially approved governmental business. Training given by an organization formed to provide professional development to officials or employees to one of its members. The example we just talked about, the Broward League of Cities, you were on the board of directors in that situation, so that would be an example of this. Any honoraria or and related expenses. However, you must report lobbyist-given expenses annually on a Form 10.
And this is where it gets rather nuanced between Broward County's ethics rules and the state's, because even though the state says you can, but you have to report it on Form 10, Broward County says, no, you can't accept anything from a lobbyist, except for non-alcoholic beverages and food valued under $25.
So a little more on gifts. In this case, we have a Commission on Ethics report from 2017. It's 17-106. It says that the city manager in this case overlooked every ethical law on the books. You don't want to be this person. This was out of Tallahassee. It was the former city manager, Mr. Fernandez. He overlooked every ethical law by accepting FSU skybox tickets from a lobbyist and accepting over $6,000 in discounts towards wedding catering from the lobbyist who had a city-subsidized restaurant, all of which were undisclosed. In all, they found 20 ethical violations. The Florida Commission on Ethics found probable cause for 20 separate violations, including misuse of office, unlawful acceptance of gifts, and accepting ill-gotten benefits tied to his official power. That's not all. The cover-up worsened the scandal. So the city manager repeatedly denied ever asking for the tickets until investigators got the text messages showing that he solicited the tickets, directing delivery to his office and requesting extra seats for his family members. His denial was called willful blindness. That equals corruption. It connected to an FBI probe. The gifts came from a lobbyist central to an ongoing FBI public corruption investigation, magnifying the city's embarrassment and the media scrutiny. Career collapsed under public pressure. Once the text messages became public, Fernandez was placed on leave, facing intense public outcry, and ultimately ousted after nearly 30 years with the city. So what should we remember? If nothing else, ethical violations don't stay private. It always comes to light. Secret gifts, side deals, deleted text messages, everything became evidence, became headlines, and it even ended this city manager, again, his nearly 30-year career. So the following are exceptions to Broward County's gift rule, but are subject to the state rules and reporting requirements. Gifts given to elected officials from their own governmental entity. So if the city of Coconut Creek gives you all a gift, Broward County says that's okay, but it is subject to the reporting requirements of the state. Customary condolences or sympathy cards. Expenses for public service training, non-alcoholic beverages, participation in public service announcements, and tickets to charitable events open to the public. But remember, you must file that Form 9, and that must be filed within 15 days, and you must compensate for food or beverage within 30 days. Gift rules and reporting from lobbyists, vendors, and political committees. No gift of food or non-alcoholic beverage over $25 or any other gift over $5 is permitted. You cannot solicit a gift from a lobbyist, vendor, or political committee for personal benefit. You do not have to report a gift under $100. However, the lobbyist, vendor, political committee, they must report it. Other gifts that are not from vendors, lobbyists, and political committees, up to $100 given to you in your official capacity can be accepted and does not require reporting. That's pursuant to Florida Statute 112.3148. And over $100 may be accepted. However, you must report it unless the gift is from a relative.
If I could just really quickly before we move on from that slide. Again, in the first part where it says cannot solicit a gift from a lobbyist, you do not have to report a gift under $100. However, the lobbyist must report it. Again, that's under the state law, but right above it, it states the county's requirement, which is that really you cannot accept anything over $25 for food and beverage and over $5 for other items from a lobbyist. So the bottom line is you live and you are elected in Broward County, so don't accept anything over $5 from a lobbyist unless it's food and beverage, in which case, so long as it's non-alcoholic beverage, you can accept it up to $25. End of story. Don't even go beyond the $25.
Thank you. So I have another short video. It's on gifts. This one's out of Chicago. And let's see this one.
An investigation finds Chicago's mayor is not following the rules for gifts he's been given.
The Office of the Inspector General tried to get details, but was denied. Judge Dana Ruddock lied tonight on this still developing story, Dan.
Well, Mayor Brandon Johnson calls the OIG's investigation misguided. He told us that he has never seen this so-called gift room inside City Hall. The Inspector General says when these items are not logged properly, it leaves a lot of looming questions as to where they are coming from and the intention behind them.
I don't want people to think, you all, that there's some room in the city government where there's just a wall full of belts and socks and shoes and fancy hats.
It's no secret Mayor Brandon Johnson and previous Chicago mayors received gifts while in office. According to an investigation by the Office of the Inspector General, since 2023, Mayor Johnson has accepted things like Hugo Boss cufflinks, handbags from Givenchy, Gucci, and Kate Spade, a personalized pen from Mont Blanc, and Carucci size 14 men's shoes.
So while they were getting a lot of very expensive gifts, and unusual, I guess, for the position, the overall takeaway is some gifts are okay, but you do have to follow state and county rules and laws as far as accepting them and disclosing the gifts that you do receive. So we talked a little bit about forms. Here are some of the other forms that you need to file as a public official. You must file the Form 1, which is the Statement of Financial Interest. That form must be filed by July 1st of each year for the preceding calendar year. There's also the Form 8B, Memorandum of Voting Conflict for county, municipal, and other local public officers, and that is due 15 days after a vote occurs. Also, the Form 9, which is the quarterly gift disclosure, which is due no later than the last day of the calendar quarter in which a gift was received. So penalties for public officers under State Code of Ethics. Violations of the State Code of Ethics for gifts or conflicts of interest, misuse of position are subject to numerous different penalties. For example, you may be impeached, suspended, or removed from office for a violation. You may face public censure or reprimand. You could face forfeiture of 1/3 of your monthly salary for up to 12 months, civil penalties not to exceed $20,000, restitution for any pecuniary benefits you received, and attorney's fees. So what does the Broward County Office of the Inspector General investigate? So the office investigates fraud, waste, and abuse, and the jurisdiction of the office is for all elected and appointed officials in the county. So we have the city commissioners and as well as advisory board members, all Broward County employees, municipal employees in Broward County, and all entities and people who provide goods and services to the county or any municipality under contract for compensation. Again, the Broward County OIG investigates fraud, waste, and abuse, as well as allegations of misconduct or gross mismanagement, either on its own initiative or after receiving a verified complaint. Misconduct is defined as any violation of state or federal constitution or state or federal statute or code, any county or municipal ordinance or code, or conduct involving fraud, corruption, or abuse. While gross mismanagement means material waste or significant mismanagement of public resources. If after an investigation, the OIG finds probable cause to believe that misconduct has occurred, then the Inspector General must do a few things. It must make findings and recommendations in order to eliminate the problems that were found. They must notify the appropriate civil, criminal, or administrative agency charged with enforcement related to the alleged misconduct. Or if there is no agency with jurisdiction, then the OIG must refer the investigation over to a hearing officer for a quasi-judicial proceeding. So what authority does a hearing officer have? The hearing officer is authorized to find that a violation was intentional and unintentional and de minimis, or find that misconduct exists. If misconduct is found, the hearing officer must refer to the Office of the State Attorney, Florida Commission on Ethics, Florida Elections Commission, or any other appropriate agency. They may impose fines between $250 to $5,000. They may find restitution. They may make a finding of disgorgement or refer to public reprimand or censure. None of which we want to find ourselves in that position. So Broward County OIG violations. An action which violates the county ethics code and state law may be investigated by both the county OIG's office and state ethics commission. You're subject to both authorities. Any violation may also subject the violator to also civil and criminal liability or charges. So this one is from the city of Lauderhill. It's a news clip where the assistant city manager and the city's operation manager, whom are both on the CRA, one is the director and I believe one is the assistant director, received large mortgages for their homes. And there was an investigation, and they found, there was an investigation into conflict of interest, presumably voting conflicts, because they both sit on the CRA board, and misuse of position.
Lauderdale's assistant city manager, Kenny Hobbs, and city operations manager, Julie Saunders, got big mortgages financed through the Lauderdale Housing Authority. The pair are also the Housing Authority's top managers. Broward's Inspector General calls the deals a violation of state ethics laws.
They got loans from the agency that they run, and that agency even now administers those loans. Florida law still doesn't allow that. It's a clear conflict of interest.
7 News first raised that issue last November. Our investigation revealed Hobbs got a loan from the LHA of $375,000 to buy a second home. You don't find a conflict of interest in that you borrow that money?
No, it was proved by the board, which is quiet.
And we revealed Saunders got a $318,000 loan for this house. Ms. Saunders, Carmel Cotero from General Staff, I'd like to talk to you about your loan. At the time, Saunders had nothing to say. Now the Inspector General's report accuses Saunders and Hobbs of ethical misconduct in obtaining the loans. According to the report, Hobbs also got repair money that was used to install travertine tile and an aquarium, and that Saunders got money to replace her roof, but instead remodeled her kitchen.
Those happen to be particular benefits that these two managers got. It's very unclear whether those benefits were made available to the rank and file employees.
The Inspector General's report questions everything from record keeping by the Housing Authority to the integrity of documents provided during the investigation. The report points out the Housing Authority falsely claimed to have provided documentation it did not provide. It provided differing versions of the same documents and provided versions of documents that differ from those obtained from other parties. As a result, the Inspector General is asking the City of Lauderdale to review and correct issues with the way the Housing Authority is operating.
There's a bad situation in terms of record keeping by the Housing Authority. And it simply lacks transparency.
The Inspector General is sending his report to the State Ethics Commission and asking it to also investigate. The Housing Authority's attorney responded with a statement that reads, in part, the Lauderdale Housing Authority, its Board of Commissioners, and its employees affirmatively deny the allegations contained in the OIG's final report.
The findings could have been worse. The Broward State Attorney's Office also investigated the loans. It determined no criminal laws had been violated. Carmel Cotero, 7 News. If the State Ethics Commission investigates and finds the Housing Authority managers violated the law, penalties can include fines.
This one, that was old. So a lot of ethical violations were implicated in this scenario. But if you have any questions with anything you ever want to do, just reach out to us. We're here to help you. Let's see. Oh. There you go. City Attorney's Office represents the City of Coconut Creek as a municipal corporation, as well as commissioners, the City Commission as a corporate body, and the commissioners, management, and staff acting in their official capacity within the scope of their duties. The city attorney cannot represent city commissioners, managers, or staff related to their individual interest in their position, in their individual capacities. Always ask, again, we're here to help, we're very friendly, and if we need to, we will recommend seeking individual counsel if it's something that we cannot handle or we should not handle. So the Broward County has safe harbor opinions that is only available to county ethical issues. They're not applicable to the state ethical code. Ask the city attorney in advance of an action or decision, because the opinions are binding when there's no material omission or misstatements. The request must be in writing, and any safe harbor opinion rendered must be filed with the ethics advisory opinions at broward.org, and that must be done within 15 days of rendering the opinion. Ooh. Public records laws. Public records includes all records to and from all government officials, employees, and advisory board members. Private entities may also be covered when they're acting on behalf of a governmental agency. A public record is made or received in connection with the official city business, anything related to city business or city action. It's intended to communicate, perpetuate, and formalize knowledge. The capacity of the government official is key. Location does not matter. It's irrelevant. It could be a grocery list on the city computer or city program recommendation from a neighbor sent to a private email address or a home address. Again, the medium doesn't matter. It can be communications of an email, a text message. It could be an anonymous letter, some calendars related to city business, anything meant, again, to communicate, to formalize, or to perpetuate knowledge. It excludes aids to memory and notes that are not kept in circulation. So your personal notes or memory aids that you don't intend to pass out to everybody, they are excluded. Products that are not intended, again, to perpetuate knowledge, such as your own personal notes or rough drafts for your own personal use, are not public records. If a document is circulated internally or outside of the city, it becomes a public record because it is, again, perpetuating, communicating, and formalizing knowledge. So public records and social media. Again, some or all social media postings may be public record, right? This includes posts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and any other social media post or social media platform I may not have included. Public records must be retained and made available to the public. Local governments must know about, have access to, and be able to actually search all city commission or board member social media pages if they get a public records request, and responsive post may be on the social media. Yes. Commissioner Walt.
So that's our, anything that is on our commissioner social post, not our personal.
Well, that depends. What if you post on your personal page about city business? It could transition your personal page into a public page. There is, it can get gray.
Got it.
Yes. But if you keep it completely separate, which is a task in itself, yes, you should be fine. So how do we know it's a public record? The content and the speaker determine if the communication is a public record, not the device or platform to transmit the communication. Again, it doesn't matter if it's on your cell phone, if it is on a laptop, a computer, an iPad, I don't know, beepers back years ago, if you wanted a little code, whatever it is. If you're communicating, perpetuating knowledge, then formalizing it, then you have a public record. Ownership or control of the device or platform matter, but neither are decisive. Exceptions to disclosure, sure, there are exceptions. There's lots of exceptions. They are by statute, and all public records requests should be forwarded to the city clerk's office and to the city attorney's office so that we can look at them, we can review them, respond timely, and determine whether there are any exceptions applicable. And you should send your public record responses to publicrecords@coconutcreek.net. Consequences for a public records violation. So if it's personal and it's a knowing violation, you are subject to suspension, removal, or impeachment, even criminal liability up to 1 year in prison and or up to a $1,000 fine. Unknowing violations, up to $500 fine, and if it's a city violation, a city attorney's fees and costs, as well as must pay the fees and costs even if the record was produced, but it was after the filing of a lawsuit. So here's a couple of case law examples. This is another example that you do not want to be like. This is Radiant versus Nassau County. The court found that the county broke the public records laws when it failed to produce text messages between county officials and county employees in a reasonable and timely manner. Specifically, the routine and indiscriminate destruction of text messages by a Board of County Commission member and certain county employees, regardless of the content of each message, violated Section 119.021 of Florida statutes, which required that records be kept in accordance with retention schedules adopted by the Florida Department of State. Automatic delete or purge settings or deleting text to clear up space on your phone or on your computer directly undermines the overall purpose of the Public Records Act, and any individuals declaring that the communication is simply transitory in nature is not an end-all, save-the-day answer. In this case, the court held that the phone company is not the records custodian and stated that the public records must be maintained by the person whose device they are on. The court subjected the county and its officials to fines as well as criminal penalties. So you can't just say, I deleted it, contact AT&T or T-Mobile. That is not the answer. Sunny Isles Beach versus Gatto. In that case, a city commissioner was observed texting during a virtual commission meeting. Gatto made a public records request for the text messages and subsequently filed suit against the city and the commissioner when the commissioner refused to produce them. The court ruled that the commissioner's text messages to a friend who was also a city resident were public records and had to be released, but the text messages she sent to her husband that evening during the meeting were private and did not need to be disclosed. 2 sets of text messages were produced to the trial court, messages between Goldman and a city resident, and 2 messages between Goldman and her husband. After conducting an in-camera review, so a review just with the judge looks at the text messages, him or herself, the trial judge directed his judicial assistant to disseminate to the parties' counsel via email those text messages the judge deemed to be a public record. Both texts to her friend and the husband's text. So, I don't think that's...
Sorry, Cassie.
Some of them, not all
So
of them.
in this particular case, it was interesting because it was a city commissioner that was texting both with her husband and with a resident that was in the audience. And she was basically calling her colleague on the dais like an idiot or something along those lines. And it was determined that the text to the friend were public records and had to be disclosed. The texts to the husband were not. They were considered to be almost like privileged because just like you have the Fifth Amendment, you don't have to self-incriminate. You know, there is that kind of when you're married. You don't have to necessarily, your spouse doesn't have to tell on you if it would implicate you in a criminal situation. But in this case, again, the text to the friend, to the audience member who is a resident, she did have to disclose. So now that other commissioner knew that she was texting about them that they were an idiot during the meeting. She thought that she could get away with not providing them because it would make her look bad. But there was more to the story, but the point is that, it caused public embarrassment for the city, as well as the fact that she didn't produce the records, so there were fines and penalties imposed on the city for her not producing the text messages. Essentially it in a nutshell.
Thank you. So in Lorenzo v. City of Venice, requests for emails, including private emails, they produced emails identified unproduced records. The court ordered seizure and forensics examination of personal home computers because the court found that there was some missing records. Subpoena of records of internet service providers. So now there's a subpoena involved. They have to request documents from the internet provider. This is because they refused to turn over records, there was destruction of records, and the use of secret code names to hide records. Total legal fees paid by the city in this case for both sides were over $1 million plus interest.
And this was in 2009. Imagine what it would be today.
We don't want to find ourselves in that position. So essentially, remember that the public perception is everything, right? If you're texting from the dais or if you're distracted, it could, again, look distracting, or it could be disrespectful, and it could implement the public records law. So just be careful when you're up there. It's not, sometimes we have to do it, but just be aware. All right, so here's some other little examples. During a meeting, you point at papers on the dais and you ask a nearby commissioner a question about these papers. What kind of implications are there? Could that be a meeting? Could that note be a public record?
Yes.
Because
it shows that we could be having a private discussion about an issue.
And remember, even if you're not, the public perception is what it is. They don't know because it's behind closed doors. They don't know. How about if you pass a note to another commissioner during a meeting? Same, right? You're texting during the commission meeting. Again, the same concept. So questions to think about when you're up there or when you're in a meeting. Is this piece of paper that you're scribbling on or the text message that you're sending, can it be considered a meeting? Is it a public record? Is the discussion subject to sunshine law? Public records implications, like we mentioned. What is the public perception and any assumptions from other people? Sunshine law. So in open meetings, public observation and input and why it matters. So open meetings are designed to promote confidence in government, prevent governmental abuse, help the public understand and evaluate the government's decision-making process, and help the public understand how government decisions will impact their lives and the communities around them in which they live. A meeting occurs when there are two or more members of the same commission, board, or committee discuss anything that could potentially come before the commission, board, or committee. So all you need is two people, and it could potentially come before the board. We don't know if it is, but it's something that may come before the board or commission or committee is defined as a meeting. The City Commission, as well as advisory boards and committees such as Planning and Zoning, Parks and Recs Board, Civil Service Board, DRC, Development Review Committee, ad hoc committees, evaluation of bids, Affordable Housing Advisory Committees, Charter Review Board, and Redistricting Board, those are all subject to the sunshine laws. Again, when we're talking about a meeting, the location and formality do not matter. It could be a passing conversation as you're walking back to your car in the parking lot. It could be over a cup of coffee. It could be over lunch. And it applies to written communications, social media posts, notes. And a reminder, when you get your emails, don't hit reply all, just in case there's multiple commissioners or in a board, multiple board members on an email, as well as text messages. Your text messages as well count. Sunshine Law does not apply to conversations with city staff unless delegated a policy-making function or part of a committee ranking or recommending an action. An individual commissioner or board member unless delegated authority to act. Private entities receiving public money unless delegated governmental powers. Personal discussions. So 2 commission members, 3 commission members can talk about what your holiday plans are, because that is not, foreseeably will not be coming before the board. Can attend other board meetings even with 1 or more commissioner member present, but do not discuss anything that could potentially come before the board. Meeting requirements. So you have to have notice, posting, you have to post notice. Broward County says 48 hours minimum or as soon as practicable, but our city's policy and practice, or our city's practice is 7 days in advance. The city has notice of the meetings 7 days in advance. More elaborate notice is required for certain kinds of agenda items and meetings. Place must be open and reasonably accessible to the public. Minutes of the meeting are required. However, recording is only optional. We do not have to record, but we can if we want to. Even accidents have consequences. So potential consequences for Sunshine Law violations include invalidation of an action that was taken, imprisonment, fines, removal from office by the governor, attorney's fees, civil actions, or harsher penalties if it occurs outside of the city. So here's a recent violation, and this Florida newspaper sued for a city manager's text messages. The violation, again, this was in Tallahassee, denied that the public record text messages existed. This is the same example as before, where he got the luxury skybox tickets from a lobbyist for $2,000, which was a clear ethics and public records violation. You'll remember that the city was caught lying. City's own attorney was forced to admit in court that the city that the city manager broke Public Records Act and failed to preserve the records. And of course, there's always the public embarrassment. So in order to clean up that mess in Tallahassee and to repair the damage, the city had to create a comprehensive text archiving system. It was the first of its kind in Florida. It banned public business over private phones unless retained by the city system. So now you have your private phone. If you're going to text on it or do any city business, the city has to have the ability to have access to retain it there. Require and retention of all city text message emails as a public record. Implement disciplinary actions. Provide mandatory public records training. Require annual compliance certification from officials. Establish a public records hotline and provide the first 100 pages free, and pay the newspaper's legal fees. So the takeaway, they didn't just break the law, they got caught, sued, shamed, and forced into sweeping reforms, some the first of its kind. Ethical violations don't stay private again, and you want to be aware of that. In this case, this is the Florida Citizens Alliance versus Collier County School Board. Pursuant to the school board's policy, the superintendent created a textbook committee or textbook committees to review and recommend textbooks for use in the district schools. In accordance with the policy, the committee submitted their reports to the superintendent for transmittal to the board. The school board held 2 meetings to consider the reports and ultimately approved all of the books except for one. The appellate court concluded that while staff is not typically is not typically subject to the Sunshine Law, committees' delegated decision-making authority, as opposed to fact-finding, must comply with the law. The textbook committee's evaluations and ranking helped to crystallize the decision to be made by the school board, and the school board failed to give reasonable notice of these textbook committee meetings. The 2 public school board meetings did not cure the textbook committee's Sunshine Law violations. This is a short clip out of Jacksonville. The issue here is where, the issue is where text private discussions were outside of a public meeting in violation of the Sunshine Law. So they were texting that was outside of a public meeting.
Love hearing you turn. Thank you very much. Right now, the Jackson Ethics Committee is meeting about the Sunshine Law. That's Florida's open government law, which is the state's public records law, and it enshrines the public's right to access government documents and media. Tonight, commissioners are considering new training requirements. Maria O'Hara was live at City Hall before and why this is being discussed now, and how this change could change the way the City Council handles business moving forward, Karina.
Yeah, in addition to discussing the Sunshine Law training requirements, the Ethics Commission is also discussing the newly amended ordinance requiring receipts documented with gifts given to the city and are equally shared among the mayor and city council. Now, so far, recap of the meeting, we did learn about some of those changes proposed with the Sunshine Law requirements. Include training in person versus online. Now, let's go back to August 4th when this controversy started. City Council President Kevin Carrico was texting 2 other council members during a neighborhoods committee meeting. According to the messages on your screen, they were texting about amendments to a bill Carrico sponsored. Carrico claimed the texts were about the, quote, legislative process and not about secret negotiations. The legal and ethical concern, however, was whether the text amounted to, quote, private discussions of a public business meeting outside of public business meeting forbidden by Sunshine Laws. Civil rights attorney brought the case forward to the state attorney's office requesting they open a criminal investigation when this happened. Last week, Melissa Nelson's office told us they won't do that after her office determined there wasn't a, quote, legal or factual basis to look deeper into this. Now, at today's meeting, although no discussions about the violation allegations were happening, they were discussing potential changes to Sunshine Law training requirements. Also in talks, giving documentation and distribution to city members. Once the meeting wraps up tonight, we'll share updates on what happened.
Again, please be mindful of what you say and to whom you're saying it to, because it could come out in the news, and the perception is everything. Social media. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but Sunshine needs social media. Oh, I don't know why that keeps happening. Anyway, you can't have 2 or more board members posting on the same, about the same government issue or business. So if there's something on social media and you see it and you see another commissioner has already posted on it, you should not post on it as well. It could be perceived as a meeting, right? Two or more commissioners talking about a potential item that could come before the board in the future. 2 or more members of the same board discussing a city issue that may come before the board on social media can be a meeting. And don't underestimate the issue. There are public and colleagues that will use violations of open meeting laws to get one another. They'll use it as like a way in to say that something, the law was violated or there was unethical behavior.
During the next election cycle. I said, during the next election cycle, it's the kind of thing that people will use to get you.
Although one-way communication is not prohibited, posting an article for informational purposes is permissible when no other member of the same board responds on the original post or through another medium. So let's say you see it on Facebook, you see a post on Facebook from one of your commissioners, and you respond on another, it was on Facebook and you write on Twitter about that post, that is still problematic if you're responding to an earlier post. The article must be maintained as a public record, and you may not think of this, but liking a post on a government matter can be viewed as communication in violation of the Sunshine Law. And yep, let's see.
Even on the city's post?
It can be. It depends on the nature of the post. So if the post is something like, if it's a ribbon cutting and you like it, it's not a big deal. Or if it's a city event, that's probably not an issue. If it's something that's coming before you for a vote, like, for example, the mayor is talking about how she doesn't want any more large developments in the city, and then you like that, it's suggesting you're in agreement with her position, and maybe there's a large development that's scheduled on the very next agenda. That's where you get into problems.
Well, what I was talking about was like the Yvonne post for the city government, say Facebook.
So again, for events and things, it's probably fine. If it's something that may come before you for a vote,
yeah.
If one person posts it, you have to be careful with liking, what another commissioner posts, or even if Yvonne posts it and you like it and it's taking a position, unless we've already publicly voted on that particular item to state publicly what that position is, you have to be careful.
It's easy. Just don't like anything.
There you go.
That is
Sorry.
the easy solution. All right, so there was an Attorney General opinion from 2009. It was 09-19. While there would not appear to be a prohibition against a commission member posting comments on a city's Facebook page, members of that commission must not engage in an exchange or discussion of a matter that foreseeably will be before the commission for an official action. Engaging in an exchange of ideas or discussions on such matters is a slippery slope, and comments made on the site by one member in reaction to the letters, emails, or personal postings of another member may be broadly construed as such an exchange or discussion, and thus constitutes a violation of the Sunshine Law. There was another opinion, another AG opinion, 01-21, while the preparation and distribution of individual commission members' position statement is technically in and of itself not a violation of the Sunshine Law, to the extent the position statement is a response or construed as a response, again, public perception, to another member's statement, it violates the Sunshine Law and thus is problematic and strongly discouraged. That's what we just talked about on the previous slide. In other words, you are generally allowed to create and share your own position on an issue, but responding to another member's statement or position can violate the Sunshine Law, and therefore it should be avoided. Social media is not all bad and scary, right? Social media has its upsides. It is great for helping the city to build its brand, a positive brand, promoting the city's programs and events, and getting communication out there to residents and to the city's customers. But it can also present legal issues, as we talked about. When on social media, keep in mind the following. So, First Amendment issues, open meeting, Sunshine Law, accessibility, any copyright issues, bad behavior, and government has a limited ability to impose restrictions on the time, place, and manner, and we'll talk about a few cases on those issues in a moment. So copyright includes images, text, videos, audio, etc. The use of any of the aforementioned on social media must comply with U.S. copyright laws. Copyright is intended to protect the original work of authorship. Authorized use of photos, videos, or text without attribution is a common pitfall, and do not assume that something is fair use without proper consultation. And just a warning, there is no sovereign immunity cap for local governments for violation of the copyright law, the laws. Accessibility Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act requires public entities, such as our local government, the city, to make reasonable modifications to avoid discrimination based on disability. And the Department of Justice enforcement position is that local government websites and social media pages must be accessible.
Does this pertain strictly to government?
To the local governments.
And this
Yes.
is just local governments? In other words, yeah, accessibility. Or
Yes,
posting
however, if you have a
records.
different fact scenario, we might have to look into that and get back to you.
Thank you.
First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So, types of forums under the First Amendment, we have a traditional public forum, a limited public forum, and a non-public forum. The limited public forum often applies to social media cases involving governmental officials or agencies who block users or who delete comments that they do not like. Generally, the government may impose reasonable, content-neutral restrictions on speech, but it cannot discriminate based on speech, based on one's viewpoint of speech. I think this is our last video.
Hold on, I got a question for you.
Yes.
So say our Facebook page turns off comments, doesn't allow comments to be made. Is that a First Amendment violation?
If you don't allow any comments,
Yeah.
then it's, I don't believe that that would necessarily be a violation if there are no comments allowed across the board and it's stated up front that no comments are allowed. Right, if it's just sharing information and nobody can comment on it, because, I mean, one could argue that that is more of a, I mean, it would be a limited public forum.
So I felt like it'd be different if I did it as an individual to won't allow it, but the government should be able to take criticism and be able to have a First Amendment conversation. So it's the residents and the people's rights to be able to comment on something. So by turning off that, you're restricting the First Amendment rights of an individual to make comment on government, which is the whole purpose for the First Amendment.
Understood. So maybe I misunderstood your question. I guess the bottom line is this. It's no different than, or it could be no different than city commission chambers, right? It's considered to be a limited public forum or a designated public forum, depending on which case you're looking at. But basically that means the same thing, which is that the purpose of allowing the public to come in here and speak is to speak about government business. They can't come in here and sell their wares or, you know, advertise for different businesses and things. They can't come in here and talk about things that are wholly unrelated to the city and city government. But they could do that probably, presumably, in the courtyard, because that is more of a traditional public forum, or in a public park. They could talk about anything there under the First Amendment. Versus your private account or, you know, at your private home, people have no right really to go there and exercise their First Amendment rights and knock on your door or stand in your yard and talk about these things all the time, because that would be a non-public forum. So I guess it would depend. You know, there may be some purpose where we might have just a single-sided, so to speak, you know, like a website. We don't necessarily allow comments on the website, but people can state their concerns and have the government address them. How do they do that? They come to the meeting, or they can write emails, or they can show up in the courtyard, or, you know, so there's other avenues available for that. So there's not necessarily a strict prohibition saying that you can't have some kind of social media or other type of site affiliated with government where you can't prohibit comment, because you really, it has more to do with whether or not there's ample alternatives available for them to have the government address their concerns and for them to speak their issues. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just going to disagree with it.
So you're right to an extent, but I'm just saying that, you know, and in our case, just to be clear, we don't turn off comment. Correct. We do allow for comment. So I want to be absolutely clear about that.
Right, and as we all know, we're one of the best ones when it comes to that, because we take it on the chin consistently when there's something somebody doesn't like. But I've seen it around other cities, and to be honest with you, just this week, where it played out in our sister city, where they got lambasted by residents because of that First Amendment violation, because they turned the comments off on a subject matter that should have been pretty much open. I think did you guys read it all? I don't know if you, I'm trying not to say the city, but it became a huge thing. And so I think we all know the city, but it became a big deal. There's videos going out about it. So, I mean, for us, I don't think we have an issue, but it is a question that where is that line crossed when it comes to the First Amendment and city government?
So I want to be abundantly clear. One, I'm not opining on any particular city's actions, but there is a difference between having, a public-facing website or social media page that never allows comments versus allowing comments and then suddenly turning them off. And I do believe that we're going to address that a little bit here in a future slide.
Sorry.
No, thank you. This is just the last video. It's a short clip out of Alachua County. It's the school board, and the issue here in this instance is the First Amendment when there is a member of the public who comes up and says makes comments that not everybody agrees with, and one of the commissioners tries to have him removed from the meeting. There were fines imposed based on this case.
Rockwell fully, loudly, and without apology.
But not everyone had words of encouragement.
You know what you said, and you should step down. You're a disgusting, vile human being. I need to stay and listen to everything else.
You can hear the vice chair ask for the man's removal.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to be removed from the auditorium.
And then take it back on advice from the board's attorney.
Okay, excuse me, sir. To the deputy, our attorney asked us not to remove it.
The confusion brought the meeting to a dead stop. They cut the mics, they cut the video. The board took a 5-minute recess before returning.
So at this point, this is going to be everyone's first warning.
Florida Commissioner of Education, Anastasios Kamoutsis, sent Rockwell and the rest of the board this 2-page letter. He writes, since the Alachua County School Board has publicly failed to ensure free expression of all viewpoints during public comment, I have found probable cause that a violation of state law has occurred, adding, I am recommending that the State Board of Education withhold from the district an amount equal to the salaries of all board members. Tonight, ACPS sent us this statement saying, everyone who requested to speak at the school board meeting was able to do.
So you saw that the attorney, no, I wouldn't recommend doing that. He's got a right to be there. These public comment, and you may not like what he is saying, but that is his First Amendment right to stand up and speak and voice his concerns. And a violation of state law was found, and pretty hefty fines were imposed. I think they said the amount equal to each one of the commission members' salaries. So it is, yes.
I'm sorry, Cassie.
Yes, ma'am.
So we make a statement at the beginning of every meeting about conduct and about how to address the commission. So if an individual goes off on a commissioner or anyone else in the room and takes off on another subject and starts personally attacking, I mean, it's been known to happen. So do we just sit here and accept it? But again, like I said, we make a statement before the meeting on code of conduct. So that can't be ignored. Otherwise, why implement it?
So I guess if the individual is up here with their public comment composed, right? They're composed and they just saying things that you do not agree with or that you do not like, I would not recommend stopping or removing them. But if they're, like you're talking about conduct, if their conduct is aggressive or if it's threatening or, in nature, that would be different. But
And just to follow up, I think it also depends on whether or not they're just commenting on, maybe they don't like a decision that you've made or they don't like, versus they're aggressively, I mean, they could say, you're an idiot, I can't believe you voted this way, right? Or something along those lines. They may say They may personally attack you as part of their complaint about whatever city business, but if it has nothing to do with city business whatsoever, and we have stated, the rules and the requirements, and it's just that somebody is belligerent, aggressive, threatening, having nothing to do with city business, then that's a different story. But it really is very fact-specific, and we would have to evaluate that as it occurs.
So again, the government may impose reasonable restrictions on speech related to time, place, and manner. In the case Cornelius versus the NAACP, the court held that regular citizens can block or delete anyone they want from social media. So any regular citizen has the ability to do that. However, the First Amendment limits the ability of government officials acting under the color of state law, as opposed to acting in their personal capacity from blocking or deleting messages or people. People or messages may not be blocked or deleted based on viewpoint in a limited public forum. And case law suggests that no blocking in a government forum, so just do not block. Blocking will always be viewpoint based. And no deleting of messages, even if it's controversial or attacking. I think you mentioned we take it on the chin most of the time. Whether we like it or not, the public has a right to express their opinion. Deleting an off-topic message, if the rules are clear that they can delete off-topic messages, may be okay. The rules against government officials blocking people on social media is similar to other cases where officials aren't allowed to stop citizens from speaking at public meetings. Reasonable rules may be set, but you cannot shut someone out just because you do not like what they are saying. Personal is personal, but again, the lines can get blurred based on different posts that have been made. So you want to be careful. So in a recent 2023 case, David Bear versus Escambia County Commissioner used his social media to discuss county business with constituents. He had 2 social media profiles, one for commissioner business and one for personal use. He blocked Bear from his personal account, and he had some filter words on his commissioner account that blocked messages based on those filters from showing up on his page. So he had a filter. He didn't go in and delete stuff affirmatively, but a filter caught some words which made it not show up on his page. The court held in that case that only the commission account was being used for city business. There were no signs that his personal account looked or acted like an official government page, and he did not use it to invite the public to talk to him in his role as commissioner. So that's where we talk about the distinction between your personal and your public accounts. It can be done, but you have to be mindful. To determine whether a government official's social media conduct constitutes state action, courts have focused on the following 2 main factors. So whether the official uses the account in furtherance of their official duties, and whether the presentation of the account is connected with the official's position. The court determined that Bear's First Amendment rights were not violated when the commissioner blocked him from his personal page or by using neutral words to block certain posts from his commission page. Bear also filed a public records request to obtain records from both of the commissioner's pages, both his personal and private. The court determined that both his commission account and his personal account contained public records, so he could not refuse access and had to provide these records and was forced to pay the attorney's fees to Bear. Another case from...
Ms. Harvey, can you skip ahead to Linke v. Freed?
Yes.
We're kind of running behind on time. Thank you.
No problem. Here we go, Linke v. Freed, 2024. Linke often commented on a Facebook page run by the Port Huron city manager. The city manager used the page to share both personal updates and information about city business. So here's where the lines became blurred. He shared both personal and city business on his page. After Linkey criticized the city's COVID-19 response on the city manager's page, the city manager deleted the comment and blocked him. Linkey sued, arguing that because Freed used the page to communicate about city business, blocking him was government censure under the First Amendment. And the city manager claimed, of course, that that page was personal. The Supreme Court said the government official can only be treated as acting in their official governmental role and can be sued for blocking someone on social media if these two facts are present. They actually have the authority to speak for the government on that topic, and they are using that authority when they made the social media post where they blocked the person. So the risk of personal accounts. An Ohio school board president was criticized for republishing a picture on her personal Facebook page, visibly only to her friends, that seemed to equate gun control efforts with Adolf Hitler. The post was captured and leaked publicly, leading to calls for her resignation. If you are not comfortable with your name or your face on the front page of the newspaper or in the news clips like we showed today, or on a blog, you probably should not post that information on social media, whether even if it's on your private account. Best practices for account separation: make a clear distinction between official accounts, campaign accounts, and personal accounts. Personal and campaign accounts should not be used for city-related business. Personal accounts understand and use privacy settings. You can set things to friends only to be seen. Establish a clear set of rules and follow them. Do not discuss private accounts at public meetings or with members of the public or who are not personal friends. On public accounts, do not block anyone and do not delete any comments or text messages. Critical action: be prepared to forward all city business-related comments or questions on personal pages to the appropriate city location for records retention, which was a page or the email that was provided earlier, publicrecords@coconutcreek.net. We have made it to our final section, hot topics in 2025. Section 112.3131 of Florida statutes titled Stolen Valor was created. This prohibits and penalizes false claims of military service, honors, or qualifications by candidates, public officers, and public employees when done for material gain. Material gain is statutorily defined. Under this new law, it is unethical and unlawful for a candidate, public officer, or public employee to knowingly and for material gain to falsely claim to be a service member or a veteran, to have received military decorations or honors, have military qualifications, or to wear military uniform, medals, or insignia without proper authorization. Section 112.317 of Florida statutes now expands existing authority to seek wage garnishments for unpaid fines stemming from judgments of ethics complaints by allowing the following: withholding the lesser of 25% or more allowable under federal law, including an amount to cover the administrative costs, or withholding the payment from any salary-related payment until the fine is satisfied. Referral of any unpaid penalties to a collections agency, and actions to collect an unpaid penalty within 20 years after the date the penalty is imposed. Section 112.3121 of Florida statutes: lobbying conducted as part of one's regular job duties is not considered prohibited lobbying unless the person is primarily employed to engage in governmental affairs. In June of 2025, the Florida Commission on Ethics concluded in Opinion 25-3 that a Florida mayor may continue his private employment with the John Birch Society and represent the organization as a registered lobbyist before the federal government without violating the constitutional in-office lobbying ban. Here in this opinion, the Ethics Commission found that the mayor's lobbying activities fell within the scope of his standard responsibility as the Birch Society New Development Officer, and that he is not otherwise principally employed for governmental affairs.
Can you move forward to the takeaways for Hot Topics, please?
You got it. We have final thoughts. Oh, here we go. The OIG 25-01M opinion requires reporting even from one's own agency. Elected officials must file a Form 9 when they receive a gift worth more than $100 from someone who is not a family member, unless they repay enough within 90 days to bring the gift's value below $100 threshold. A municipality's payment of a spouse's or guest's travel admissions are considered an indirect gift to the public official, and a Form 9 must be filed when that indirect gift is valued at over $100. And it is your responsibility to report all tickets over $100, whether or not you go to the event. If you accept the tickets, you must report it. And we recommend develop, implement, and train on existing and new policies and process to limit access to contract and track the receipt and disposition of admission tickets that they acquire through any means and any source, and doing nothing to inventory the use of these assets is to invite or allow the misuse of public funds. Final thoughts. If you think it might be wrong, it probably is. Don't get yourself into a situation that tempts your dishonor. Is there anyone who gives you something that doesn't want something in return? Likely not. People don't give government or elected officials gifts because they like them, but rather because they want something. At best, there's a sense of obligation there. Can you accept a gift that does not influence you? I don't know. No table talk once the meeting has started, and text messaging from the dais is highly discouraged. If you have something to say it into the microphone so that the public can hear it and it's picked up for the meeting minutes. One speaker at a time so that the record is clear. Decisions are a function of the commission as a whole. Carry out the will of the majority, preserve rights of the minority, and maintain and demonstrate respect for individual commissioners, staff, and public, and the city as a whole. Thank you. Thank you all for your thoughtful responses, your participation tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to present to everybody. And if you have any other questions, please always reach out to us. Thank you. Have a good evening.
We heard they were friendly.
Any questions for your friendly attorneys?
Just thank you very much for putting this on for us this evening.
Thank you for your attention, and thank you, Cassie, and thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Laura. I appreciate all the hard work that you did in putting this together.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.